Your very first tutorial on web development here. The goal of this series is that by the end of it all, you all should be able to master the basics of web development. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, I'm using Sublime Text Editor. It actually really doesn't matter what text editor you use as far as things go. And this is just basically the starting layout for an HTML document here. And what does HTML actually stand for? Well, it stands for a Hypertext Markup Language, hence the acronym HTML. We tend to use this for writing a web page. We're actually going to be introducing a lot of different web languages here throughout this series. CSS for styling pages, JavaScript for interactive web pages, Ajax for accessing data, XML for organizing the data. And well, without further ado, let's actually dive into it a little bit. So each of our HTML files must start off with this opening waka, exclamation doc type, and HTML. This lets the browser know that we're using HTML for our language for our specific page. Now, notice that we have this strange little notation here where we have an opening waka HTML and a closing waka here. It's very important that we have these here because it denotes a thing called a tag in HTML, which the web browser recognizes as a particular entity in the language. Notice how this HTML waka here has another embedded waka down here at the bottom, which is very similar, but the only difference is that we have the slash here. This slash denotes that this is a closing tag, a closing HTML tag, and the one up here represents an opening HTML tag. Most of the tags that we're going to be dealing with will have this property where they will have an opening tag and a separate closing tag here. As you can see, the head here has a corresponding closing tag and the body has a corresponding body tag. So what exactly goes on inside of the contents of the head here? Well, the contents of the head actually just contain information on our web page. Here we're going to have several different sources that we might be using. We put the title of our page up here in the header. We can also put specific information about what languages our HTML is going to be using, so on and so forth. So what happens down here in the body? Well, in the body, this is where we actually get the whole meat and potatoes of everything going on. We get the page contents here of our whole web page, what should be displayed and what not. So you all might have noticed that I'm using an open waka, exclamation point, and 2 dashes here. This is another special kind of tag. It's a tag that is used for denoting that I'm about to write a comment. And basically what happens is when I run this in a web page, it doesn't actually run at all. It's just kind of ignored by the browser. And the web pages the comments can actually span several different lines here. And we must always close this opening comment tag with a corresponding closing tag, which just uses 2 dashes and a closing waka here. If I leave this out, as you guys can see, now I get a couple of errors here, and I've now gotten rid of the closing header tag and the opening body tag, and that can lead to some erroneous behavior when we actually run the page. So I'm going to open up my terminal. I'm going to look at the file contents that I have here. I'm going to make sure I save everything, and now I'm going to open up this test.html file here. Let's take a look and see what actually shows up. So as you guys can see, I've opened up a local version of my HTML file. And notice how we have this address that says file/users, my name, and the exact absolute path to where this file is located. And when we're going to be opening up these pages, we're going to have a similar URL to all of these, or a similar URL for all of them, containing something similar to the lines of this. Anyways, we'll see you guys in the next tutorial.